So Mel, what do you think? Is Cold a good villain?
No, he's a garbage villain.
Oh,
In fact,
oh,
not only is Code a garbage villain, but I don't think there's any good villains in Boruto. I've talked about this
holy.
before.
So
Yeah,
you
man.
don't
Like
think that Jigen was a good
Thank
villain?
you.
no, no, not at all. I view antagonist and villain as two different things. From the perspective of like a Kawaki who's dealing with like an abusive father figure, that's an interesting dynamic. But from like a shonen perspective, where I'm expecting this guy to have some kind of philosophy, a different motivation than the last villain, because quite honestly, he's basically doing what the same guy did before him, just with a different coat of paint, right? It's a different scene, but the motivations are the same. Now there could be
Same
some
poop, different
underlying
toilet.
some difference, like hey, they're doing the same thing but for different reasons, but they didn't explain that, and that'll be me theorizing. So I don't know. So I don't see why Jigen or Ishiki they couldn't have done the same narrative with Momoshiki because they had the same motivation, just executed in different ways. And then it's like, okay, well, Code, well, they're doing the same thing with Ishiki, and then the same thing that Ishiki did with Momoshiki, and it's the same. Like the last three major villains are all doing the same thing. Now, of course, there's different motivations, again, context. But at the foundation of it all, to me, it's the same. A series needs to do three things for me: make me feel something emotionally, scratch my little primitive monkey brain with action, and it needs to make me feel like I left that series or that arc a little bit smarter than I was when I came into it. And I always go to like the Pain Invasion arc. This is why I believe Pain Nagato is the best villain or antagonist in the entire franchise, and I believe that arc is one of the best, if not the best, in the entire franchise, in my opinion, because it does all three of those things. Action makes me think and makes me feel things emotionally, and Boruto's really good with the action, and is really good. Well, not it's somewhat good with the emotions. It has its moments. Kawaki, Kurama, stuff like that. Naruto, that's impactful. But the intellectual side of the series, it's very much so lacking. So that's my only issue with it, and that's just my opinion. But yeah.
My God, Udi. Do you think that Cold is a good villain?
There's two ways to answer this. There's the fans' interpretation. How do the fans feel of it? Honestly, as a fan, just kind of boring so far. He's basically a simp. I hate to say that, but he seems very not aggressive. It's just kind of a nerdy kid is my vibe. He's trying to be edgy or like kind of like a goth kid. I don't know. It's dumb. That's from a fan's perspective, the subjective view. The objective view from a writing perspective is there's actually very few enemies or villains in Naruto that work from a screenwriter's perspective. And there's a very simple answer or reason why this is the way it is. And that's because American screenwriting doesn't apply in Japan. American screenwriting mostly applies to Hollywood movies. That's where screenwriting was developed, essentially, or the rules of screenwriting anyways. You get like the 1930s of film appreciation, and you sort of build off of that. In Hollywood, that doesn't apply to Japanese movies, and especially Japanese media in general. So not only is Boruto the series not a movie, it's also not media, but it's a manga. So it has its own rules that basically allow it to do whatever it wants. And that's why Hunter x Hunter succeeds. It's because I think the author of Hunter x Hunter doesn't even know screenwriting structure. They just go with what they think works, and it just so happens to work out.
Yeah, the crazy thing, I never really watched Hunter x Hunter. I've always gotten scared because people
Really?
tell me that the writer goes on hiatuses, and you never really know when he's going to start back up and when he's going to end. So I've always
But
been a
you
little
should
bit
watch
hesitant.
Hunter x Hunter though. Hunter x Hunter is gold. They actually Hunter x Hunter is an older series. It just got redid and reanimated.
I don't know. Here's the thing about me. I get attached to series. Like, for example, I remember I still
Just
can't
go
forget
into
this.
Hunter x Hunter just thinking that there's nothing else after this point on in Hunter x Hunter, like where the anime ends. There's a manga that extends past the anime if you wanted to like read that, but just think that the anime is over. I would just go into it like that because when did Hunter x Hunter come out? Like I don't. People were probably gonna get on me about that. I think it was like 1997 or something like that. Like Hunter x Hunter is pretty old, bro.
I'm not even going to answer that, so I'm going to let you take all the flames for that. Whether it's incorrect.
Yeah, rock out.
Oh, I might be right. Bro, I'm good at this type of stuff, bro. I think it's 1998.
maybe I'll tap in. We all got to decide. Oh, what's the anime we could watch collectively together? I think Mel still got to watch Attack on Titan, and Free Game. I'm not even sure what you got to watch.
Nothing, because I watch everything almost. Well, he wants me to watch
Yeah.
this series on Netflix, so I have to watch that. I watched 2 episodes of it so far, and I don't think he watched anything of Attack on Titan. Let me ask you guys this: do you think that the villains would have more of a major impact if we didn't know that the 2 main characters make it to being teenagers?
More Kawaki's side of things. The thing with Boruto is that, of course, it's a shonen anime, and we all expect that the main character is going to make it to the end. But if we're realistically speaking, if we didn't necessarily
expect that, they don't always have to follow the same narrative, though. They can kill off the main character, and it'll be absolutely fine.
They can, but for this to be Naruto, let's say hypothetically it was Attack on Titan. I think Attack on Titan, at any given moment, we had that idea that, hey, the main character may actually die.
Spoiler,
and of course, I'm not saying that he did die or not. I'm not saying that he did die or not. I'm just saying throughout the whole entire series, we had that feeling. Do you feel me? There's a possibility that at any given moment, this guy can actually die.
Are we not smoking on the Aaron pack?
I can't tell you right now if the pack is in the air. You feel me? I don't want to give any spoilers.
I know,
but I'm just saying if we had not gotten that flash forward scene,
right,
we would have thought Kawaki would have died in probably like each of the last 3 arcs.
Right.
We would have thought it was a for sure thing. Like, imagine if we didn't really get that flash forward arc, we wouldn't necessarily know that Kawaki and Boruto, their actual frustrations and everything, they run so deep, and we wouldn't necessarily know that Kawaki and Boruto would end up fighting against each other, of course. Because right now they seem like all buddy-buddy. Of course, we did see Kawaki almost pack up Boruto a couple chapters ago, but most of the time, mostly, they're all buddy-buddy after they did, of course, get introduced to each other. It would have made that scene
more impactful, too, if we didn't know that Boruto made it to be a teenager. That's another thing that I was alluding to.
That's true as well. But specifically with Kawaki, he's legitimately a loose cannon. If Kawaki ups and leaves the Hidden Leaf Village in the next chapter, I would not be surprised. So I think it's even more exaggerating in Kawaki's case because he's so much of a loose cannon. Now we have the already assured, you feel me, context that he's going to be alive in the future. The way Kawaki moves, again, we don't know what he's going to be doing from chapter to chapter. I think that takes a lot away from, of course, the overall mystery from his character chapter to chapter.
What about you, Mello? What you think?
Yeah, like when Boruto was killed in the last chapter, 67, that would have been so much more impactful if we didn't know that he actually was going to come back. So the question was never framed, oh, Boruto died, like what happens next? It's like, oh, it's not when he comes back, or rather it's not if he comes back, but when he comes back. So the question was like, okay, by what mechanic does he come back? Not, does he come back? If you kind of understand. So that in and of itself took like some of the tension away. And I think I have my opinions, and I'm not sure if there was like any panels or articles alluding to this from any interviews. I have my opinions as to why they did that flash forward scene, and I think it was a little short-sighted, and I would prefer it if it didn't exist, quite honestly. But the series now, yeah, the series now, it kind of has to get to that point. And this is the reason why, I've been talking about like the whole Naruto stepping down as Hokage, Shikamaru being like Danzo 2.0, Tobirama type stuff, because I'm trying to figure out at what point in the manga will we start to. They've already been sowing the seeds in the anime a lot more than the manga, but at what point are these like political and social conflicts going to start to kind of bloom? And that's essentially what's going on in that flash forward scene between Kawaki and Boruto. That's political and social. That's not aliens and outer space and multiple dimensions. So at some point when we get past the Otsutsuki issue, we bring it back down to earth, and we talk about more relatable topics like government and politics, the shinobi world, which is essentially society and government, and it kind of keeps the series, I won't say predictable because you can't parse out like the specific details, but you kind of understand like the track that they're on. There's pretty much like 2 stories happening, right? There's the social and political conflict, and then there's like the sci-fi aliens, outer space stuff.